Hello, hello. Welcome to season 5 of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. My name is Debbie Heiser, and I help entrepreneurs make a lot of money doing what they love without sacrificing what's important to them. I see way too many business people letting their businesses or their jobs run their lives versus them figuring out with real clarity about what they want their lives to look like and having their job or their business be the conduit to have that life that they absolutely love. I want to thank you so much for listening in to season 5. This season is filled with motivation, inspiration, leadership, and wisdom from some super interesting guests, and myself included. My hope is through our shared experiences, you will see a bit of yourself and move further into leading your own lit up life. If you're enjoying this podcast, please feel free to share with others and leave a rating, and a comment or two would be awesome too. Let's get going. Thanks again for being a part of our community.
Straight from the corners of my mind is where I find my sanity.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. My name is Debbie Heiser. I'm excited you're here. I want to talk a little bit about today this idea of the victim game. Excuse me. We've talked about it before in a previous podcast, but I want to remind you of what the victim triangle is and some subtle ways that it shows up. And if you think about a triangle, so those of you watching, you can see my hands here. If you think about a triangle, and each one of the points of this triangle is one of these points that I'm going to talk about. So, and when I'm talking about the drama triangle, the victim is not someone of an egregious crime. I'm not talking about that type of victim. I'm talking about when we feel like the universe is doing something to us and it's not for us. So the universe is for us, and the things that happen are either a blessing or they're a learning. And we have to, we don't have to, but we can choose to look at that in a very different way. So when we think about being a victim, this is when, again, we feel like things are being done to us, that we're not the creators of our own life, our own time, our own schedule, and we feel trapped. Now, I get that many of us feel trapped in our jobs. We feel trapped in relationships. We feel trapped in choices, like the outcomes of choices that we've made. I get that. It's a shift. And I get that there are some really crappy situations. I mean, I was in a relationship that wasn't serving me. I have had people get out of things that they could choose to stay in or choose to leave because it was harmful to them, right? What I'm talking about is these little everyday things that happen. And so we have this victim, and this is when, like I say, I have to go to the grocery store. And some of you have heard this before. I have to fill my car up with gas. For me, it's the like mundane kind of little things. And I guess even saying mundane is kind of a story, right? Excuse me, it's pollen season here in the Northwest. And so when I think about the subtleties of that, it's also the, oh, I have to go home tonight and clean my deck off. Well, no, it's a choice, right? And I'll talk about that here in a second, but I'm choosing, and that has a completely different energy. I'm choosing to clean off my deck because I want a place to sit and watch the sunset or to drink my coffee in the morning. So when I think about it in that way, it has a different energy shift. So the other key piece to this is in that triangle, there's the victim. And a lot of times we don't realize we're in that. A lot of times when we're in the victim mode, we get attention from that. Like I used to talk about like how sick I felt, how tired I was, all of those things. And in fact, those are just messages. But I mean, I remember, I'm embarrassed to say this. I was in Mrs. Warner's class in Monticello, Iowa. And I basically said I was sick every day. I went to the nurse's office. My parents got called. They were frustrated, as you can only imagine. And then one day I thought, oh, I need to have a temperature. So I stuck the thermometer. It was the old mercury kind you put under your tongue. I stuck the thermometer over by a radiator. And for those of you listening that don't know what a radiator are, it's just a heater, and it like had water in it and heated up, and then it heated up the room. So I stuck the thermometer over by this, and it ended up like 130 degrees or something goofy like that. So when they came back, they're like, you're not sick, get back to class, right? I had been caught. Well, I was playing a victim there, and I was getting attention from that. So, and that was a tough pill to swallow as an adult, even thinking about getting attention, acting like I was sick, right? There's other subtle things that we can gain attention, or we get something that feels like it's serving us. My best friend has a painting different than mine, but the same artist as mine back here, that says something to the effect of, we don't move until the place that we're at becomes so uncomfortable. And that's where sometimes the victim is. They don't move until it's so uncomfortable, so miserable, that what they were gaining from it is not, it's so uncomfortable that they change. So that's kind of the victim piece. Then we run into the persecutor. And the persecutor is when you feel like you are judging someone else and telling them how they should live their life, what they should and shouldn't do. So that critical parent, I had a friend recently call it Sharon, and I'm sorry, Aunt Sharon, but meaning the spin on that critical parent's just sharing way too much information that I don't want to hear, right? Like, so I thought that was pretty humorous. So use that if you want to, but that critical parent that's in us comes out and starts to be a critic of other people. Now, I've talked about some things with my relationship with my ex-husband, but what I haven't necessarily shared as much is that I was his critical parent. He could do nothing right. I mean, I held responsibility in the breakup of that marriage too. And so when I think about that, it's whenever we try to tell people what they should and shouldn't do. And even as a coach, that's a fine line, because I try to ask questions to get people to think about things differently. But there are times that I come right out and say, just do this, right? And in a way, that's being a persecutor. But it's whenever I'm meeting with, and I did this to my son a lot and his wife, like, you should do this or you should do that. And then I learned to stop that. It's their life. I don't need to do that. I have enough to take care of in my own life, right? And it doesn't mean I'm not there for advice if they want it, but that persecutor is giving that advice when it's not solicited and having a lot of judgment about the way people do things. We don't know other people's stories. Then there is this rescuer. And with all the work I do at Gonzaga and with leaders in corporate America or in business, I find this one, like, they have really good intentions, just like you do as a persecutor, to tell people how they should do something. But this rescuer is someone that comes in, they see someone struggling, they swoop in to save the day and help them. And they're the fix-it people. And so they come in and do this, all the while having this intention to help someone. But what happens is it says to that person, I don't trust you to do this. Or I don't feel like you have a handle on this. So therefore, I'm going to jump in and finish this up for you. Well, that doesn't feel so good to be the recipient of that. And that's also sometimes turns you into the martyr or the victim by saying, oh, I have to jump in and do this for this person, right? Also, when you're there, it's also about saying, I need to help this person. I need to do this. Well, those words keep us in that drama triangle. And I want to offer up something that I heard. I wish I could claim this, but Peter Crone, Run, Don't Walk, go listen to some of his stuff. He doesn't have a podcast, but you can search in podcasts for him, and he does other podcasts. And he has a group called the Freedom Community. And he talked about this in a recording that I listened to recently. And what he said is, let's change that. Let's shift that a little bit to, I choose to, right? So I don't have to go do anything, but I'm choosing to go to the grocery store because I want good food to eat. I have my apple right here that I'm going to have as a snack. I choose to go get gas in my car because I want to get places. I choose to do laundry because I want to be able to have clean clothes to wear. Now, never mind that I have 3 years worth of clothing that I'm working to get rid of because I have a goal to get rid of 50% of what I own. So anyway, when we get to that point, we need to realize it's a choice. And that is this law of 100% accountability. I'm taking accountable. I'm growing up and taking accountability for my own life because I realize I'm choosing to do this. But if I continue to say, I have to go do this, I have to go do that, I have to go do this, it's reinforcing things in our subconscious brain versus I'm in control of this. Now, I always say too, like, say you're in control and then God laughs, right? But like, we do have the ability to create whether or not we go into this experience with a, like a big sigh or with a, hey, I choose to go do this. And the other piece of this is I get to do this, right? Like I get to go lead this lit up life. I get to in the winter ski 3 days a week because I get to create my own schedule. Last month, I was out for 15 days. I was traveling with my mastermind and then also had a speaking engagement in LA and tacked on a few extra days to spend with my family. So looking at that, I spent those 15 days, although I did work with my mastermind, it was much more working on my business than in my business. So I knew prior to that trip and right after that trip that I was going to have a couple of really full days. And I don't typically like to have 6 to 7 hours of clients back to back. But I did that. And I chose to do it and I got to do it because I got to go do this other fun thing. That's part of this integrating a business and your life. Now, I also chose to set up systems with certain things. Like I have a podcast like this that you're listening to that comes out every Tuesday. And I have a team person that helps me, Sarah, put this together. And I have someone that produces the podcast, slices and dices it, puts it together, and then we send it out to all of the different mediums. So I chose to set up those processes before I went and did this so that I wasn't then doing work when I was out. Now, this process has been set up for a while because I chose to set that up that way. So I get to, I choose to, and the last one is I love to, right? Like I have the opportunity, I get to clean my deck off because I get to sit out and have coffee. And I love having coffee in the mornings on my deck with a blanket because it's a little chilly here in the Northwest in the mornings. I love to have a place to go sit outside and read a book and watch the sunset. That's then the emotion part of it, right? So shifting those words from being in the drama triangle of I have to, I should do this, to I need to do this. Also, you've heard me talk about the love vase and having this vase full of water where people get our overflow. They get our overflow because we're staying in a vibrational energy that is positive and with gratitude because I choose to, I get to, and I love to do what I'm doing. Now, don't get me wrong. There are things like laundry that I don't love doing. But I'm choosing to do them because I'm choosing to have a clean house and have things put away. That wasn't always the case. My best friend used to tease because she'd come over and I'd have a basket full of clean clothes folded and not put them away. So I'm choosing to do that because of the lifestyle I want. And I'm choosing to stay out of the victim triangle by trying really hard to reprogram the neuropaths in my brain by removing the language of I need to, I have to, and I should, to that of I choose to, I get to, and I love to. So again, I stole that from Peter Crone, but I hope this was helpful for you. It was very impactful to me, which is why I wanted to share it. And last but not least, please reach out to me. I have an awesome program starting here in August that is surrounding yourself with high vibrational men and women that will work on these types of shifts, what I call the inner game, but we're also going to work on the outer game, giving you some very specific things that you can do in your business from a strategy and vision perspective to a very tactical, and how do I execute on those tactics to make it happen. I'll have guest speakers in. There's private coaching with myself and my program coach. It's going to be a fabulous, fabulous community, and I cannot wait. So please reach out, chat with me about it. I'd love to see you as a part of that group, because it's going to create transformation. And here's the deal. Don't call me if you don't want to change. Like, I work with people that want to change. Doesn't mean that they're not scared, that they don't run into some terror barriers, that they don't run into blocks, but they're willing to do the work because they want transformation. That place that they want to go is more important to them than staying where they're at. Now, it's also a work on the inner game to realize that you are a beautiful human, and that the stories that we've adopted throughout the years that told us that we weren't worth it or we weren't lovable are just false, and helping people unlock that. So again, if you're interested in that, please reach out. The website is in the show notes, and I would love to set up a clarity call and talk to you about it more and really get clear too on what it is that you want to see if you're a good fit for that. With that, folks, it's a wrap. Everyone have a fantastic week, and we'll talk again. Thanks so much for listening. The song Ride is co-written and sung by Miss Jackie Wilson and her collaborators Tyler Banks, David DJ Lee, and Chris Renee. And a huge shout out to them for allowing us to use this perfect song. Everyone have a fabulous week, and I'll talk to you next week.